No one ever talks about how cold a courtroom feels when the whole place is terrified of the truth. I mean it. Denver County Court wasn't just quiet that morning. It felt frozen. Like someone had sucked all the warmth out of the building and left only dread behind. People packed the benches wall to wall. Reporters, families, cops, folks who just wanted to witness the big case everyone in Colorado had been whispering about. But now, not a single cough, not a single shuffle, not even a phone screen lighting up. Just that heavy kind of silence, where you hear your own heartbeat and wish you couldn't. Then the bailiff opened the side door and said 5 simple words. "Witness is entering the courtroom." And suddenly, every neck turned, every breath paused, every pair of eyes locked on that doorway like they were watching a fuse burn down. And then, she appeared. Little Ava Thompson, 6 years old, barely tall enough to see over the wooden railing, walking like her shoes were filled with lead, her tiny fingers wrapped around a leash so tight her knuckles had turned completely white. And at the other end was Titan, a battle-scarred, broad-chested German shepherd, a 90-pound wall of muscle with a jagged scar running from his ribs to his hip, the kind of scar that only comes from violence. And the moment Titan stepped through the doorway, the entire courtroom inhaled like they'd just seen a ghost. It wasn't his size. It wasn't the way he towered beside her. It was the way he moved. Slow, controlled, eyes forward, ears twitching like radar. Every step silent and precise, like he was back on duty in some alley or safe house or wherever that scar came from. He wasn't a therapy dog in that moment. He was something else, a protector, a survivor, a warning. And little Ava, God. She looked like the last child on earth, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, the kind that said her mom tried really, really hard that morning, even though both of them probably cried for an hour before leaving the house. Ava clutched that leash like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. And honestly, it probably was. Her eyes stayed glued to the floor, afraid of seeing something, or someone, that might make her shut down all over again. And Titan felt it. Anyone could see that. He kept himself half a step in front of her. Not beside. Not behind. In front. A living shield. With teeth. A few jurors exchanged looks. One woman covered her mouth. An older man quietly crossed himself like he was in church. Because everyone knew the story, or at least the pieces of it. The attempted abduction, the missing kids across 3 states, the suspect who always slipped away, and the little girl who hadn't spoken a single word since the night someone tried to drag her into an SUV and disappear her forever. Now, the only witness left was a child who couldn't speak, and a dog who wasn't supposed to matter legally at all. But the moment Ava and Titan crossed that threshold, something changed. A shift in the air. Like the case wasn't in the judge's hands anymore, but in Titan's. Judge Harold Whitaker, 61 years old, 20 years on the bench, a man called unshakable, froze mid-movement. His hand hovered above his notes, like he'd forgotten what he was doing. He wasn't staring at Ava. He was staring at Titan. Not because Titan was dangerous, but because he looked certain. Certain of where he was. Certain of who he was there for. Certain of what he'd do if anyone, ever again, tried to hurt that girl. Ava stumbled on the first step to the witness stand. Titan instantly shifted sideways, bracing himself so she could steady her tiny hand on his shoulder. That half-second moment hit harder than any scene in any movie, because it wasn't staged, it wasn't training, it wasn't for show. It was instinct, connection, survival. A 6-year-old girl who had lost her voice, and a retired K-9 who had nearly lost his life, walking into a courtroom together like they'd been carved from the same piece of broken stone. As they reached the front, Ava did something almost no one noticed. She reached out, just a tiny, trembling motion. And Titan. He leaned his head into her hand without even turning, like he knew the touch she needed in that exact second. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," not in fear, but in awe. Because in a room filled with lawyers, detectives, reporters, and a man accused of being a monster, the bravest soul there was, a little girl barely tall enough to see over the stand, and the dog who refused to let her face the darkness alone. And every single person felt the same thing rising in their chest. Something is about to happen. Something big. Something none of us are ready for. You know that feeling when someone looks at you and you swear the temperature around you drops? Yeah. That's exactly what happened the second Cole Harrington lifted his head. And, listen, I'm not exaggerating. You could ask anyone in that courtroom. They'd all tell you the same thing. The man's eyes were wrong. Not dramatic wrong. Not movie villain wrong. Just empty. Empty in a way that made your skin crawl. So here's this 44-year-old software engineer. Quiet, neat, clean-shaven. The kind of guy you wouldn't notice at Starbucks even if he stood right in front of you. Sitting at the defense table like he's bored out of his mind. And then Ava walks in. And suddenly, he's not bored anymore. His head tilts a little. Then those weird, dead eyes lock onto her. I swear to God. It felt like the whole building exhaled in pure dread. Because it wasn't hatred in his stare. It wasn't anger. It was worse. It was recognition. Like he knew her. Like he'd seen her before. Like he was replaying something in his head. Something no child should ever be part of. And Ava. Sweet, tiny Ava. She felt it instantly. Her shoulders tightened. Her fingers twitched on Titan's leash. She curled in on herself, like she was trying to make her body smaller, or maybe disappear. And the way she lowered her head, God. It was like the air had been slapped out of her lungs. She didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't move. She was just frozen. But Titan? No. That dog didn't freeze for a second. The moment Cole's eyes hit Ava, Titan's entire body changed. Not loud, not dramatic, not barking or snarling, just subtle, quiet, terrifying. His ears went rigid, his paws spread wider, steadying himself. His tail dropped low, wolf low, and his breathing slowed, like he was slipping back into work mode. And his eyes, God. They flicked from Ava to Cole and back again, and you could practically hear the gears inside that dog's mind turning. Threat. This is the threat. You didn't need to be a dog expert to see it. Even Judge Whitaker noticed. He paused mid-sentence like, "Wait, what the hell is happening right now?" Someone in the gallery whispered, "Jesus." Another person pushed back in their seat, like Titan might launch himself at the defendant. But honestly, no one should have been afraid of Titan. They should have been afraid of why. Titan reacted that way. And Cole, God. The man didn't flinch, didn't squirm, didn't blink. Most guilty people crumble when a dog stares them down like that. Not Cole. He just stared at Ava like she was an old photograph he'd forgotten to burn. Then, it happened. Ava looked up. Just for a second. A tiny, accidental glance, and her whole face changed. Her lips trembled. Her eyes widened, then snapped down again like she'd touched a hot stove. Her little hand jerked. She almost dropped Titan's leash. And Titan? He didn't miss that. He leaned into her leg, pressing her back toward him, like he was saying, "It's okay. I'm here. Breathe." She tried. She really did. But the air came out in tiny, shaky puffs that didn't sound like breathing, more like fear trying to escape. Ms. Callahan, the prosecutor, shot a worried look at the judge. The bailiff took a half step forward. A juror pressed a hand over her chest like she might pass out. Because everyone saw it. Ava wasn't scared of the courtroom, or the people, or the lights. She was terrified of one man, Cole Harrington, and the way he watched her. It wasn't just unsettling. It was sick. Like he was studying her, memorizing her reactions, testing her. The kind of look a hunter gives a wounded animal it once missed. At one point, Cole slowly leaned back. Not relaxed. No. More like settling in. As if what was happening was some private joke only he understood. And then, he smiled. Not big, not showy. Just a twitch at the corner of his mouth. But it was enough. You could hear the whisper roll across the gallery. Oh my God. Did he just smile? Titan lifted his head an inch. A growl rumbled deep in his chest. Soft, low, like distant thunder. Ava flinched, and Cole's smile widened. Just a little. Just enough to say, "I remember you." It was sick, twisted. And the worst part? Ava knew it too. Time 700 pounds. Because she did something heartbreaking. Something so small you might have missed it if you weren't watching closely. She reached down and grabbed Titan's fur. Not the leash. His fur. like she wasn't holding a dog. She was holding on to life. And in that moment, the entire courtroom finally understood. This wasn't a trial. It was a battlefield, and the war had already begun, with a child who couldn't speak, and a man whose eyes said everything. It was tiny, almost invisible. Honestly, if you blinked, you would have missed it. Ava moved her hand. Just 2 fingers, barely a twitch, like she was trying to tell the world help without making a sound. And, here's the thing. She was telling the world. Or at least, she was telling the one creature who had learned how to hear her even when she couldn't speak. Titan. Because that small twitch, that was the SOS gesture her trauma therapist had taught her months ago, back when she could barely make eye contact with anyone. A signal only she and Titan practiced in those long, quiet sessions where talking wasn't possible, but communication still had to exist. And the instant Ava made that signal, I swear, it was like flipping a switch inside Titan. His entire body snapped into focus, like someone poured electricity straight through him. First thing, the fur along his spine shot straight up. Not cute, fluffy up. No. This was primal, instinctive. The kind of reaction that says, I've identified a threat. Step back. Then came the sound. A growl, low, rumbling, so deep it felt like it vibrated through the floor. You didn't just hear it. You felt it. People tensed instantly. A couple folks in the gallery grabbed the edges of their seats. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." But no one dared speak louder. Not with that sound filling the room. Ava didn't even look up. She didn't need to. Titan already stepped in front of her. One move, smooth, purposeful, blocking her entirely from Cole's line of sight. And I'm telling you, Titan didn't just stand there. He became a wall. A living, breathing, battle-scarred wall that had made a choice. No one touches this kid. Not on my watch. Ava's small hand was still curled into his fur, and Titan leaned his weight forward, pushing her gently back. Like he was saying, "Stay behind me. I got this." And yeah, maybe that sounds dramatic, but if you were there, you'd say the same thing. That dog wasn't reacting like a pet. He was reacting like a protector. A retired K9 whose instincts never died even if his career had. Then came the moment that made everyone's stomach drop. Judge Harold Whitaker, a man who had stayed composed through shootings, gang cases, federal trials. He stood up, not slowly, not politely. He shot up from his chair like someone had slapped him. His gavel hand froze mid-air, and for the first time in 20 years, the man looked shaken. "Bailiff," he began, but didn't finish. He didn't know what to order. Because what do you even say when a therapy dog turns into a shield in your courtroom? There was no chaos. Just this heavy pause where the whole room held its breath and waited. Cole Harrington didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't speak. But his eyes changed. A flicker, a spark. Something sharp. Recognition. Annoyance. Or maybe fear buried so deep he thought no one could see it. But Titan saw it. Oh, Titan definitely saw it. He stepped forward again, just one paw length, but the message was unmistakable. He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't posturing. He was ready to act. A guard reached subtly for his taser. Not for Titan, but in case something snapped between the defendant and the dog. Even he looked unsure what the protocol was. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Ms. Callahan swallowed hard. You could hear it from the back. Everyone watched Titan now, not out of fear, but out of respect. Awe. Like they were witnessing some ancient instinct wake up. Something older than laws or rules or please remain seated. Even Ava felt the shift. Her fingers tightened, not in terror, but in trust. Titan growled again. Short, deeper, enough that Cole's right eye twitched. Judge Whitaker finally found his voice. Mr. Harrington, he said, slow, tense, every word heavy. Do not make any sudden movements. And Cole smiled, just a tiny, awful curl at the corner of his mouth. Titan lunged half an inch, just enough to show he saw it. And that was the moment everyone realized. Ava hadn't given a random signal. Titan wasn't overreacting. Something real was happening. Something dangerous. Something none of them understood yet. And honestly, it made the air feel thin. Too thin. So let me ask you something. Just between us. If you were sitting in that courtroom, what would scare you more? A. Titan's reaction. B. Cole's smile. Or C. The fact Ava needed that SOS signal in the first place? Tell me in the comments, because I swear, each choice says something different about the kind of person you are. To understand that, you kinda have to go back before the courtroom, before Titan, before the silence, back to the day everything in Ava Thompson's world cracked open. 6 weeks earlier, life looked completely different. Ava wasn't the quiet, trembling kid we see in court now. Nope. She was, how do I even put it? Bright. Loud, but cute loud. A little tornado in pink ballet slippers. She was that kid who'd spin around the living room just because she felt like twirling. The kind who laughed with her whole body. Head back, arms out, the whole thing. The kind who made strangers smile without even trying. People in the neighborhood used to call her the Sunshine Girl. And for the most part, that's exactly what she was. It was a Saturday, late afternoon, the kind of Colorado day where the air feels crisp, but warm sunlight still holds on to your skin. Their backyard in Boulder wasn't fancy, just a patch of grass, a plastic slide, a swing that squeaked no matter how much oil her dad poured onto the chain. Ava was outside practicing her little ballet spins. You know, those wobbly half-turns only a 6-year-old thinks are perfect. Her mom, Jenna, was in the kitchen prepping dinner. Something simple, pasta or maybe chicken. She said later she couldn't even remember because the whole memory blurs right after that. And the crazy part? The part every parent hates? Jenna only stepped inside for 7 minutes. 7. Not 30. Not an hour. Not long enough for anything serious. Just 7. She got a text, checked the stove, wiped the counter, answered the text. Normal. Totally normal. And when she stepped back outside, Ava wasn't alone. A tall man stood near the swing set. Gray jacket, baseball cap, hands resting on his knees like he'd been talking to her. At first, Jenna froze, because your brain doesn't go straight to danger. It goes to, oh, maybe he's a neighbor? Maybe he lost something. Maybe he needs directions. But then the man straightened up. Slow. Too slow. Like he wasn't surprised someone walked out. Like he'd been expecting it. And Ava, she wasn't smiling. She wasn't dancing. She wasn't even moving. She stood stiff and still, little hands hanging by her sides, fingers curled like she'd been gripping something that wasn't there anymore. She looked like a doll someone dropped and forgot to pick up. "Can I help you?" Jenna managed. Later, she told police her voice didn't even sound like hers. The man didn't answer. Instead, he placed his hand on Ava's arm. Not gently, not casually, just firm, possessive. And that's when Jenna saw it. Parked by the side gate, half hidden behind the fence, a silver SUV, engine running. She didn't wait, didn't think, didn't breathe. She just yelled, "Ava!" But Ava didn't react, didn't twitch, didn't turn, didn't move. She just stared at the ground, blank, frozen, like someone had reached inside and switched her off. The man tightened his grip and tugged. Not a yank, not violent, but enough. Enough to tell Jenna this wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. This man came with a purpose. Everything after that turned into instinct. Jenna lunged. The man jerked back. Ava wobbled. For a split second, Jenna thought she'd lose her grip, lose her child. She screamed, louder, raw, a sound no mother should ever hear coming from herself. Maybe that scared him. Maybe a neighbor heard. Maybe he panicked. Because instead of dragging Ava, he shoved her, just enough to knock her off balance, and sprinted for the SUV. The car tore off so fast, gravel sprayed across the yard. When it was over, Ava just stood there. No tears, no shaking, no collapse. Just standing, as if she hadn't even processed what almost happened. Jenna fell to her knees and scooped her up, sobbing, "Are you hurt? Baby, talk to me. Look at me. Please, look at me." But Ava didn't respond. Her head rested on Jenna's shoulder, but her eyes stayed open, unfocused, staring past everything. She didn't cry, didn't blink, didn't speak. Not that day, not the next, not the week after. Doctors called it trauma-induced mutism. Jenna called it the day her daughter's voice disappeared. Because something in those 7 minutes, something in that man's presence, didn't just scare Ava. Time 700 mouse, it silenced her. Completely. And now that you know what happened, let me ask you something. For real. Just you and me. Before he ever became a therapy dog, before Ava even knew he existed, Titan was a working K9 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And not just any K9, he was one of the good ones. The kind officers still talk about over late-night coffee. Smart, fearless, ridiculously loyal. He'd done narcotics ops, building searches, missing person calls, all the dangerous stuff. And then came the call that changed everything. A hostage rescue. Late at night. A trailer home on the outskirts of town. One suspect with a knife holding a teenage boy in a back room. Titan went in with Officer Jim Beck. They'd trained together for years. Titan trusted Jim like family. Jim used to say Titan was the partner I'd die for. Nobody expected the suspect to lunge at Jim that fast. Nobody expected the blade to arc the way it did. But Titan didn't think, didn't hesitate, didn't wait for a command. He threw himself into the path of the knife. The blade slashed deep along his side. A long, brutal cut. So deep, the fur never grew back. That scar people see today? Yeah, that's where it came from. Jim wrestled the suspect down. Backup rushed in. The boy lived. Everyone lived. Except Titan wasn't moving. He lay on the floor, bleeding so fast the officer's boots turned red. Jim scooped him up, shouting for help, begging Titan to stay with him, repeating his name over and over like he could will the dog back into consciousness. Titan, stay with me. Hey, listen to me. Stay with me, boy. They rushed him to the emergency vet. Bright lights, metal tables, hands everywhere. Titan drifted. He heard muffled voices. He smelled disinfectant, blood, fear, and he felt pain. So much pain he didn't even whine. He survived the night. Barely. But the department decided something else. His injury was too severe. His treatment was not in the budget. His mobility would never return to K9 standards. You know what all those phrases really mean? We're done paying for you. Titan was placed on a list. A short, ugly list. Euthanasia candidates. Basically, thanks for saving a life. Now you're too expensive. Goodbye. And look, maybe the officers hated it. Maybe some argued. But budgets don't care about loyalty. Paperwork doesn't care about sacrifice. The system doesn't see a hero. It sees a number. The night before the injection, Titan was moved into a small kennel. Concrete floor, steel bars, no blankets, no partner beside him. Just a dog who had given everything he had and was now trying to breathe through a wound that still hadn't closed. He curled up tight against the corner. His breaths were slow, shaky, each rise of his chest looking like it might be the last. And the worst part, he didn't understand. Dogs don't know about budgets, or policies, or decisions made in offices. All Titan knew was that Jim wasn't there. No one touched him. No one spoke to him. No one said, "Good boy." He was alone, forgotten, disposable. And then, just after midnight, the door at the far end of the kennels opened. Footsteps. Slow ones. A woman in scrubs walked in with a chart. Dr. Madison Reyes, a vet who'd worked with K9 units for years. People said she had a gift, like she could sense the animals nobody else noticed. She walked past the other kennels, didn't look left, didn't look right. She went straight to Titan. She knelt in front of the bars. Titan lifted his head just a little, pain flashing through him. Dr. Reyes whispered, "Oh my God, what did they do to you?" She touched his nose gently. Titan closed his eyes, pressing weakly into her hand like he'd been starving for that touch. She didn't read the chart, didn't check the wound. She just sat with him. Then suddenly she stood up, stormed down the hallway, and came back with 3 techs trailing behind her. "No," she said, trembling. "No way. No one ends this dog's life. Not tonight. Not ever." A tech asked why, even though he didn't need to. Dr. Reyes pointed at Titan and said, "Because he saved someone. Now it's our turn to save him." That was the night Titan was pulled off the list. The night he was given another chance. The night his story started over. And eventually, the night his path would lead straight to a little girl in Boulder who'd also been thrown away by fate. A girl who didn't have a voice anymore, and a dog who'd almost lost his life. 2 broken souls the world nearly gave up on. But not Dr. Reyes, not Titan, and not Ava. And honestly, after everything Titan survived back in New Mexico, it almost feels inevitable, like the universe was quietly pushing him toward the one person who needed him most. Because the truth is, Ava wasn't the only one walking into that meeting carrying invisible wounds. Titan had them too. The first time Ava met Titan, she didn't walk into the therapy center. She clung to her mom's shirt like it was the edge of a cliff. And if you'd seen her that day, you'd understand why. Her eyes were huge but empty. She flinched at noises that weren't even loud. She walked like someone half her size had placed a heavy blanket over her small shoulders and told her to carry it forever. A little girl who once twirled like a ballerina now moved like each step needed negotiation. Dr. Madison Reyes brought Titan into the room first. Calm, quiet, gentle. But when Ava saw him, her whole body tightened. Not because she feared him, but because the world itself had become something to fear. Everything did. She pressed herself into her mom's side. She didn't lift her head, didn't speak, didn't even breathe loud enough to hear. The room fell into a silence so heavy, even the clock ticking on the wall felt too loud. Dr. Reyes crouched beside her, her voice soft, warm. "Well, sweetheart, this is Titan. He's not here to scare you. He's here because he knows what it's like to be scared too." Ava didn't move. didn't blink, didn't look. Titan didn't move either. He didn't approach, didn't sniff, didn't crowd her. He just sat there, scarred, still, like he knew rushing toward her would break her even more. He waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. 10. No one spoke. No one dared. It felt like the whole world was leaning in to listen. Then, something tiny happened. Ava's hand moved, just a little, like her fingers were thinking about reaching out before the rest of her body approved it. Titan saw it, but he didn't rush over, didn't jump, didn't break the moment. He slowly, so slowly, lowered himself onto his stomach, then slid forward inch by inch, quiet as breath. When his head finally touched Ava's knee, Ava froze, not in fear, not in panic, just shock, soft, warm, so impossibly gentle for something so big, so scarred. Titan rested his chin on her lap like he was placing his entire heart there. A silent offering. I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here to give back whatever was stolen. And that's when Ava broke. Not loud, not dramatic. She broke in silence. Her shoulders trembled. Her hands lifted to cover her fond. Her breath hitched. Not quite a sob, more like her body remembered how to cry before her voice remembered how to follow. Tears fell onto Titan's fur. Big ones, fast ones. And Titan. God. Titan didn't move an inch. He didn't shake off the tears, didn't shift, didn't adjust. He just let her cry. Let her grip fistfuls of his fur like she was drowning, and he was the only thing still floating. He pressed his body softly against her legs, as if trying to wrap her in warmth she couldn't find anywhere else. A tiny sound slipped from him. A low, gentle whine. Not fear, not stress. Comfort. Reassurance. As if he was telling her, "It's okay. I've got you. I know. I know." For the first time since the attempted abduction, Ava didn't pull away from someone comforting her. She leaned into him, and the adults in the room could feel it. They were witnessing something rare, something that had nothing to do with training or therapy charts or treatment plans. It was two broken souls recognizing each other. Titan knew what it meant to be thrown away, to hurt, to lie alone in a cold room waiting for an ending he didn't deserve. And Ava knew what it meant to lose your voice to fear, to stand frozen while the world turned dark. They didn't need words. They needed this exact moment. A week later, something happened no one expected. Ava walked into the therapy room different, still quiet, still cautious. But she went straight to Titan without being asked. She placed her hand on his head like she'd been doing it her whole life. Then, out of nowhere, so soft everyone thought they imagined it, Ava whispered, "Hey, Titan." 2. two tiny words. But in that room, they felt like an earthquake. Jenna dropped a stack of crayons. Her dad covered his mouth. Dr. Reyes teared up on the spot. It wasn't just Ava speaking again. It was Ava choosing him to speak to. Choosing the one creature who showed her it was safe to exist in her own skin again. A child who had lost her voice, and a dog who'd almost lost his life, finding each other like two puzzle pieces cut from the same pain. You don't see moments like that often, and when they happen, they stay with you forever. And honestly, after watching how Titan and Ava connected in part 6, you'd think, maybe, what happened in the courtroom earlier was just instinct. Nerves. A therapy dog reacting a little stronger than expected. Yeah. No. Because when they came back for the next court session, it became painfully clear Titan wasn't guessing. He wasn't reacting randomly. He wasn't confused. Titan knew something. And Cole Harrington? Yeah. Titan knew him. The courtroom felt heavier than before. Not loud. Not chaotic. Just dense. Like the air itself was suspicious. Ava walked in beside Titan, holding his leash with that tiny, careful grip. Not like she was controlling him, but like he was anchoring her. Her steps were slow, shaky, reluctant. The kind of walk you make when you don't want to be somewhere, but you know you can't run anymore. And Titan walked like a soldier returning to a battlefield he remembered too well. Not tense, not yet, but not relaxed either. His tail hung low and straight. His eyes scanned the room. His breathing was quiet, controlled, focused. They reached their seats. Ava sat. Titan lowered himself beside her. One paw slightly forward, body tight, ready. Everything seemed calm, if you could call it that. But then, Cole Harrington looked at Ava. Just one glance. Barely a second. But it was enough. Ava stiffened. Her hand twitched. The same silent SOS from part 3. And Titan. Oh man. Titan reacted like someone flipped a switch in his spine. He snapped his head toward Cole. So fast a couple jurors gasped. His ears pinned forward. His body stretched out in front of Ava, blocking her from Cole's view. Then came the sound. Not a growl, not a bark, just a low, eerie rumble, the kind you feel more than hear. Judge Whitaker froze again. But this time, he wasn't confused. He wasn't caught off guard. He was studying Titan, like he suddenly understood. This dog isn't reacting to fear. He's reacting to memory. And then something happened that gave everyone goosebumps. Whitaker leaned forward, elbows on the bench, eyes locked on the dog. Softly, almost like speaking to a person, he asked, "Titan, did you recognize something?" The whole room held its breath. Titan didn't look at Whitaker, didn't look at anyone else. He kept his eyes glued to Cole Harrington, unblinking, locked in. Then, he lifted his nose and inhaled, just once, Slow, precise, deep, confirming a scent. Cole flinched. Barely. A twitch in his cheek. A swallow in his throat. But Titan saw it. Every cop in the room saw it. The prosecutor saw it. Even the jurors saw it. This wasn't a therapy dog reacting to a scared child. This was a K9 identifying a target, a predator, a memory, a threat. Ms. Callahan, the prosecutor, stepped forward, her voice low, measured. Your Honor, this dog worked K9 units for years. If he's reacting like this, it's not a coincidence. Whitaker didn't blink. I know. And the way he said it sent chills down a few spines. Meanwhile, Ava curled into Titan's side, hiding her face the way traumatized kids do when their body remembers before their mind explains. Her hand fisted into Titan's fur, as if letting go might make something terrible happen. Titan kept growling, soft, steady, controlled aggression, the kind police dogs use seconds before acting. One bailiff rested a hand on his holster. Another stepped forward. The room tensed. But Whitaker held up a hand. Firm, cold, absolute. No one touches that dog. And that was the moment everyone understood. Whitaker wasn't protecting Titan. He was trusting him. Cole shifted in his seat. Too fast, too tense. Titan's growl deepened. Whitaker, eyes narrowing, asked the question that dropped the floor out from under the entire room. Mr. Harrington, has this dog encountered you before? Cole's lips parted. His eyes darted. From Titan to Ava to the judge. For the first time, he looked rattled. He shook his head. Too fast. Way too fast. Titan exhaled sharply. Not a bark. Not a growl. A huff. The sound dogs make when they're calling out a lie. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Whitaker leaned back, eyes narrowing further. This is not random, he said. This dog knows something. The truth was no longer hiding. It was sitting right there, covered in fur, scarred across the ribs, and staring down a man who looked like he'd just seen a ghost wearing a badge. And all I can say is, if Titan wasn't guessing, then something much darker was about to surface. And after seeing Titan stare Cole down like he knew him from some dark corner of the world, yeah, the investigators didn't waste a single second. Because when a retired K9 reacts like that specifically, that confidently, you follow the instinct, even if you don't fully understand it yet. And that instinct, it led them straight into the mountains of Flagstaff, Arizona. Agent Marcus Hale, the kind of guy who didn't believe in gut feelings or animal intuition, even he admitted Titan's reaction in court felt wrong. Wrong enough to reopen every piece of evidence. Wrong enough to make him look twice at one strange detail. The mud. A smear of reddish-brown dirt stuck to the grooves of Cole's boots, so specific, so textured, that a lab tech murmured, this looks exactly like Coconino Forest sediment. So the team packed up, drove hours into thick, pine-covered mountains. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. Not peaceful quiet, eerie quiet. The kind where even the wind feels like it's hiding something. Titan rode in the back of the SUV. Not calm, not anxious, just keyed in. Focused, breathing slow, ears flicking every time someone said Cole's name. When they reached a faded cabin half swallowed by trees, Hale stared and muttered, "Yeah, this is the kind of place nightmares rent by the month." The cabin looked abandoned, roof sagging, windows gray with dust, front door hanging crooked, like something once forced it open. But Titan didn't hesitate. The second his paws hit the ground, he pulled, hard, like someone was dragging him forward by the bones. "Easy, boy. Easy," Hale murmured. But Titan wasn't listening. He wasn't frantic. He wasn't wild. He was deliberate. Urgent. Like he'd been here before. Like he knew exactly where he needed to go. Wind cut through the trees, sharp, cold, that Flagstaff altitude sting. Pine needles cracked under boots. Everything felt tight, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Inside the cabin, the air hit them instantly. Thick, stale, humid in a way that didn't match the cold outside. "Smells like something died in here." One agent whispered it. Everyone thought it. Titan's claws clicked on the floor as he charged straight into the center of the room. He didn't sniff like a normal dog, didn't search randomly, didn't check corners. He went straight for a rug lying crooked in the far corner. "Hold up," Hale said. "Let him work." But Titan wasn't working. He was reacting, pulling, scratching, growling low. A growl filled with fury, not fear. Two agents grabbed the rug's edges. "Ready?" "No, but do it anyway." They pulled, and instantly, the smell hit them. Not death, not rot. Something metallic, damp, like old blood mixed with wet earth. It clung to your clothes, your hair, your memory. One agent gagged. Another stepped back. Hale swore under his breath. Titan leaned in, sniffed hard. And then he let out a sound no one in that room ever forgot. A sound that wasn't a bark, wasn't a growl. It was grief, fear, recognition. Like he was saying, "This is where they were. This is where something happened." Under the rug was a trap door. Crude. Old boards nailed into a frame that didn't belong. The padlock was busted, violently, like someone ripped it off in a panic. Hale lifted the door. Slowly. Cold air washed over them. Wet, heavy, thick with secrets. Stairs descended into darkness. Flashlights clicked on. Beams cut through shadows, revealing dirt walls, rusty hooks, scraps of fabric, and then the thing that froze everyone. Tiny handprints, smudged into the dirt. Small, desperate, like children had clawed for the surface. Someone whispered, "Oh God, this isn't just a hiding spot." Hale gripped his flashlight, jaw tight. This is where he kept them. Titan barked. One sharp command. Not fear, not warning. A message. Go. Now. There's more. And God helped them. Titan was right. And honestly, after Titan barked that one sharp command at the end of Part 8, every single agent in that cabin knew deep in their bones, that whatever waited beneath that trap door wasn't just another clue. It was a graveyard of memories, a place built for suffering, a place no one should ever step into, especially not a kid. But they went anyway, because they had to. The first step down the staircase felt like stepping into someone else's nightmare. The wood creaked under their boots, loud in a silence that felt too deliberate to be natural. The air got colder, thicker, like breathing through wet cloth. Even the flashlights seemed hesitant, their beams slicing through dust and shadows that looked like they wanted to cling to the walls forever. Titan stayed above ground at first, pacing at the edge of the trapdoor, whining, paws scraping at the floor, like he hated that the humans were going in without him. But the staircase was too steep, too narrow, so he waited. Trembling, muscles locked, tail stiff as wire. If dogs could pray, that was the posture of one who was praying. Agent Hale reached the bottom first, and the moment his boots hit dirt, he froze. "Jesus," he whispered, barely able to breathe. Because scattered across the floor, like childhood memories ripped apart, were stuffed animals. Not clean ones, not bright ones, not the kind you buy at Target. These were ripped open, stitched eyes torn out, ears missing, fur matted with dirt and something darker. A pink bear missing an arm, a rabbit with half its face gone, a unicorn with a snapped horn, like someone tried to twist it off. An agent gagged. Another turned away. "Who the hell does this?" someone whispered. No one answered. And that wasn't even the worst part. On the far wall, held up by rusty nails driven straight into wood, hung ropes, different lengths, different knots. Some frayed, some new. Silent proof of every moment a child had reached, struggled, screamed, and no one heard them. Hale swallowed hard. "Keep looking," he said, though his voice cracked like part of him wished he hadn't spoken at all. On the ground beneath the ropes lay clothing, little shirts, little jeans, socks with cartoon characters, shoelaces tied too tight, like a terrified child had tried to pull them off with shaking hands. Then someone's flashlight hit the far end of the basement, and the entire room changed. Guys," an agent whispered. "You need to see this." Pinned to the wall with thumbtacks were drawings. Child drawings. Crayon, scribbles, desperation on paper. One showed a small, crying figure behind bars. Another, a faceless man with long arms. One had the words, "Please find me," written in shaky pink crayon. Someone turned away. I can't look at this." The basement felt alive with sadness, with echoes, with ghosts. And then, something moved in the corner. Hale whipped his flashlight toward it. At first it looked like blankets. Then it breathed. Then it whimpered. And then, a tiny voice, cracked and dry, barely human, whispered, "Please, don't hurt me." The beam steadied, and there she was, Mia Delgado, 9 years old, missing for 4 months, curled against the dirt wall like she was trying to make herself invisible, pale, hollow-cheeked, hair tangled into knots, eyes huge with terror. She tried to lift her hands, but they shook too badly. Hey, it's okay," Hale whispered, kneeling. "You're safe now. We're here." Mia flinched anyway. "Please, don't let him take me back." Every agent's face hardened. Not at her. At the monster she feared. Above them. Titan heard her voice. That tiny, broken voice. Something inside him snapped. He shoved himself halfway down the stairs, claws scraping wood, whining louder now. Not dangerous, not aggressive, just desperate. "Hold him back," an agent shouted. But Hale shook his head. "Let him down. The stairs are too. Let him down." Titan squeezed through. Awkward, sliding, but determined. And when his paws hit the dirt floor, Mia's eyes widened. Not in fear, in disbelief. Titan approached her slowly. No growl, no bark, just a soft, shattered whine. He lowered his head. Mia reached out, trembling, then touched him, and the dam broke. She sobbed, loud, shaking, unstoppable. "Don't let him take me again," she cried into Titan's fur. "Please, please don't let him." Titan pressed against her. Firm, warm, protective, as if trying to wrap his entire body around her. He licked her hand, her wrist, her arm, as if saying, "No one is taking you anywhere, not while I'm here." And for the first time since she vanished 4 months ago, Mia Delgado believed it. And honestly, after what the agents found in that basement in Part 9, nobody walked back into the Denver courtroom the same. Not the FBI team, not the prosecutors, not even Judge Whitaker. Because once you see a child clinging to life the way Mia Delgado did, the case stops being evidence. It becomes something personal. But the one who walked in changed the most? Titan. The courtroom lights buzzed faintly overhead as everyone shuffled in for the new session, the one where the prosecution planned to reveal the cabin discovery. Ava entered quietly with her parents. Still small, still fragile, but something was different today. A tiny flicker in her posture. Titan walked beside her. Except walked isn't the right word. Titan moved like a storm rolling in. Focused, driven, purposeful. His steps were slower, heavier, almost like he knew, absolutely knew, this was the moment everything came full circle. When they reached their seats, Ava sat gently, hands folded tight. But Titan, instead of lying beside her like he always did, took 2 steps forward, then another, straight toward Cole Harrington. The bailiff instinctively lifted a hand, a reflex. But Titan didn't charge, didn't growl, didn't bark. He just stood there, perfectly still, eyes locked on Cole, unblinking, unflinching. And that stare, it wasn't anger, it wasn't confusion, it was recognition. Like a warrior seeing the face of the enemy who created all the ghosts he'd been chasing. Cole tried to keep his cool. He really, really did. But the truth leaked out in pieces. First, his fingers, tapping, over and over. Then his breathing, too fast, too shallow. Then the sweat, tiny droplets forming at his hairline. His eyes turned red, watery, panicked. Your Honor, his lawyer whispered. But Cole wasn't listening, because Titan took one more step. No sound, no aggression, just presence. Cole's leg bounced uncontrollably. He wiped his palms on his pants, tugged at his collar like the air had gotten too tight. Then he stammered, Someone hold that dog back." Nobody moved. Nobody dared touch Titan. Judge Whitaker leaned forward, voice steady, ice cold. "Mr. Harrington, the dog has shown no sign of danger." Cole shook his head violently. No, he knows me. That dog knows me." Titan didn't blink. And that silence? It was louder than any bark, louder than any shout, louder than any evidence the prosecutors could ever present. It was the silence of truth, the silence of guilt finally surfacing. Miss Callahan stepped forward. "Your Honor, given the evidence found at the cabin and the reaction of the surviving Vic..." Cole slammed his hand on the table. "Don't say her name," he snapped, voice cracking in half. Titan tilted his head. Just a fraction. Just enough to make Cole unravel further. The judge asked, "Mr. Harrington, why does this dog frighten you?" I'm not scared," Cole lied. Terribly. Titan inhaled deeply. A slow, precise breath. Nose pointed directly at Cole's shaking hands. Agents exchanged looks. They knew what that breath meant. Dogs don't just smell scent. They smell fear. Chemicals. guilt. And Titan recognized every bit of it. Cole curled his fingers inward like he wanted to hide them. His knee bounced harder. His jaw clenched. His composure cracked in real time. "Your Honor, stop him," Cole pleaded, pointing a shaking hand at Titan. He's accusing me." Whitaker didn't budge. "Dogs don't make accusations, Mr. Harrington. People do." Titan didn't move, didn't growl, didn't bark. He didn't have to. His stillness was the verdict. Cole's face twisted. Rage, fear, panic colliding all at once. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "You people, you're letting a dog decide my fate." But his voice cracked, then broke. Because Titan finally did the smallest, simplest thing. He sat. Not relaxed, not obedient, not tired. He sat like a soldier claiming victory. Cole's chest collapsed inward. His hand ran through his hair. His eyes darted. To Titan, to Ava, back to Titan, then downward. And then it happened. The unraveling. The collapse. The moment monsters lose their masks. "I did it!" The words tore out of him. Okay? I did it. I took them. I took them all. I'm done lying." Gasps rippled across the courtroom. A woman covered her mouth. A juror whispered, "Oh my God." An agent muttered, "Holy hell." Titan didn't react, didn't move, didn't even blink. He simply stared. Steady, unflinching, relentless. Cole buried his face in his hands, sobbing. "I'm done," he cried. "I'm done. I'm done." And Titan? He stood there in absolute silence, a dog who never spoke a word, yet said everything. And honestly, after Cole broke down in court in Part 10, after that confession ripped through the room like lightning, everyone felt drained. It wasn't victory. It wasn't closure. It was shock, melting into relief. The kind that leaves your legs weak and your heart too tired to celebrate. But for Ava, that moment wasn't the ending. It was the opening. The courtroom emptied slowly. People whispered. People hugged. People wiped their eyes. Not because justice was served, but because for the first time, they believed it could be. Ava's parents guided her toward the hallway. Her mom kept one arm around her, like she feared Ava might disappear if she let go even for a second. Ava held Titan's leash loosely, her fingers barely moving, like existing was already taking all her energy. Titan stayed close, not leading, not guarding, just matching her pace. Step for step, shadow to shadow. Then, near a quiet corner by the exit, Ava stopped. Her mom froze. "Sweetie, do you need to sit?" Ava didn't answer. She turned slowly and crouched down in front of Titan. The big shepherd lowered his head instantly, pressing his forehead into her chest, like he knew this moment wasn't about protection anymore. Something inside her was shifting, something loosening after weeks of fear locking everything in place. Ava wrapped both arms around Titan's head, burying her face in his fur. She held on like she needed his warmth to stay tethered to the world. And then, the tears came. Not silent, not tiny, not held in. Real tears. Big, shaking ones that made her entire body tremble. Her mom covered her mouth, sobbing, because Ava hadn't cried like that since the day she lost her voice. Titan whined softly and pushed closer, almost knocking himself off balance, trying to hold her with a body that didn't have arms. He let her tears soak into his fur, didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't look away. He kept his eyes on her mother, soft, steady, as if saying, "It's okay. I've got her. Let her feel this." Ava pulled back slightly. Her hands stayed tangled in Titan's fur, knuckles pale. Her eyes, puffy, red, blinked up at Titan like she was searching for something. And then, God. She opened her mouth. Her parents froze. Even Titan seemed to still himself. The first sound was thin, barely there. More air than voice. Then another, a syllable, a half-whisper, a broken beginning. Her mom dropped to her knees. "Ava, baby, it's okay. Take your time." Ava pressed her lips together, like she was afraid they'd stop working again. She looked at Titan. Only him. Then she tried again, and this time the sound came out clearer, still soft, still fragile, but real. Thank," her mom sobbed. Her dad covered his face. Ava swallowed hard, took one shaky breath, and with her fingers clutched in Titan's fur like it was her lifeline, she whispered the full sentence. "Thank you for saving me." Her voice. Oh, her voice. It wasn't strong or loud or steady, but it existed. It lived again. After weeks of silence, weeks of nightmares, weeks of fear swallowing her words whole, Ava found her voice because of the dog who never let her stand alone. Titan lifted his head, slowly, almost regally, as if he understood exactly what she had just given the world. He nudged her chin gently, a tiny encouragement, a tiny victory. Ava smiled, just a small twitch, but her first smile in almost 2 months. A deputy walking by froze, eyes shining. Judge Whitaker, who had stepped into the hallway, gripped the doorway like he needed help standing. His voice cracked as he whispered, "That dog didn't just protect her. He brought her back." Ava's dad nodded through tears. "You have no idea," he whispered. Titan sat proudly beside Ava, tail thumping once, just once against the floor, like a heartbeat of triumph. And for the first time since the nightmare began, Ava wasn't silent. Ava wasn't lost. Ava wasn't broken. She was healing. And the world around her, yeah, it healed a little too. And honestly, after hearing Ava whisper those first trembling words in part 11, it felt like the whole world finally exhaled. Like every heavy moment that had been building since the day she lost her voice finally cracked open and let some light pour through. But that wasn't the end of Titan's story. Not even close. Because once the truth came out, once Cole Harrington confessed and Mia Delgado was rescued, the entire country wanted to know, who was this dog? And how the hell did everyone almost lose him? The news hit Santa Fe before it hit Denver. A retired K-9, once marked for euthanasia, had helped crack a multi-state abduction case, helped save 2 children, helped expose a predator, helped a little girl speak again. People started digging into his past, his injury, his forced retirement, the night he almost didn't get a second chance. Within 48 hours, the Santa Fe Police Department was drowning in backlash. Reporters camped outside. Former officers spoke out. Animal rights groups lit the internet on fire. And finally, because they couldn't hide anymore, the department held a press conference. Chief Ramirez stepped to the podium, looking 10 years older than he had the week before. He cleared his throat, adjusted the mic, and said the words an entire nation was waiting to hear. We were wrong. No excuses. No soft phrasing. Just 3 blunt words that echoed across every broadcast. He continued, voice shaking. Titan served with honor. He saved lives. And when he was injured in the line of duty, we failed him. Because of that failure, a monster walked free longer than he should have. People nodded. Some cried. Some applauded. Ramirez swallowed. Titan is, without question, one of the greatest K-9 officers this department has ever had. Then he stepped back. No spin, no PR gloss, just honesty, for the first time. Back in Denver, something beautiful happened. Neighbors began leaving little stuffed dogs on the Thompsons' porch. Not because Ava needed them, she was slowly finding her way back, but because people wanted to honor Titan. Someone painted Titan with Ava beside him. Someone else created a wooden plaque that read, "The dog who spoke for the silent." A local news anchor used it on air. Newspapers picked it up. Then social media. And suddenly, Titan wasn't just a therapy dog or a retired K-9. He was a symbol, a reminder, a quiet revolution wrapped in fur. People talked about trauma dogs, about funding programs, about giving retired K-9s real support, real honor. Titan started something bigger than himself, and he didn't even know it. But Ava did. Her voice didn't come back all at once. It came like sunlight, slow, warm, cautious, peeking through clouds. Some days she spoke a little, some days not at all. But every day she said one thing: "Hi, Titan." That became her anchor, her starting place, her safety line. Titan slept beside her bed every night, one paw touching her blanket. If nightmares came, he nudged her awake before she slipped too deep. If loud noises froze her in place, Titan pushed his head under her hand until she remembered she wasn't alone. Her mom once whispered, "Titan doesn't just protect her. He reminds her she wasn't the thing that broke." A few weeks after the trial ended, Judge Whitaker invited the Thompsons and Titan to his office. He wasn't wearing his robe, just a suit and a tired smile. He offered Ava hot chocolate. She accepted it, whispered, "Thank you, sir," in the softest voice. The judge turned away, pretending something had gotten in his eye. Then he knelt beside Titan, rested a hand gently on the scar along his ribs, and whispered, "You did what the rest of us couldn't. You carried her voice strong until she could carry it again." Titan nudged his arm, tail thumping twice. Soft, proud, present. And for a moment, the judge just sat there, a grown man beside a dog, looking like he'd witnessed something holy. Titan, the dog who spoke for the silent,